Hey there YouTube, I'm Joe, you're watching my channel Ink&Iron. Today we're doing a review, the full review, of the Gerber Suspension NXT or Gerber Suspension NXT multi-tool by Gerber. This is designed in the USA but made in China, so just know that right off the bat. You can get this multi-tool for about $40 some odd. Exact amount will be down here on the screen. So, starting with the outside of this thing, this tool is sort of a cheaper looking version of the previous iteration. Here's the original Gerber suspension. You can see we have some like carved in details on these steel handles that are pretty cool, and they were meant to emulate suspension bridges in Portland, Oregon, where Gerber is based. So we have sort of the same vibe, although we're working with just like a stamped out metal fabrication technique rather than individual slabs of steel that are apparently like milled or something. So yeah, it looks a little bit cheaper in my opinion. There is kind of a weird aesthetic going on where you can see this is like bead blasted, matte finished, looks pretty nice, and then when you open it, the plier heads are satin finished and kind of headed towards a more high polish like mirror sort of finish. So not really sure what's going on there in terms of design choices, but just know that it looks a little bit odd, maybe a little bit not all the way thought through, in my opinion. You know, this is just my experience. Obviously we saved some money with this new iteration using like the stamped steel. Little things like the handles being curved, right? These are nicely curved, nothing weird going on. This one had to make little break points for the handles to sort of wrap around and bend, because when it's open you need a little bit of rounding here on the handles in order to make it more comfortable. So there were some design concessions right off the bat. On the plus side, this thinner steel that this is made of is very lightweight. This is a lighter weight tool than its original counterpart here. Let me compare them on a scale real quick. Okay, we're 0. Original suspension, looking at 252 grams, and suspension NXT, 193. And for you Americans out there, 6.8 ounces. And the original 8.8. So a savings of 2 ounces. That's not trivial. It definitely makes the pocket clip make a lot more sense. We will talk more about the clip in just a second, but I want to address adjustability first. So all of this hardware here is totally Loctited in place. I tried to back off this particular Torx fitting, and you can see I damn near stripped it out. It is totally secure. You won't be able to make any adjustments to this tool at all. And it also doesn't come well tuned, which I'll show you a little bit more of later. The plier action was gritty at the outset, so with your budget price in mind, there are budget features on this tool, in my opinion. Yeah, you're gonna have to do some break-in to make this work properly, but I can show you how to do that. So as far as the first tool goes, let's talk about the clip. Pretty obviously, mine is now sprung. This took until about last week in order to accomplish. For the most part, this clip is nice. When it is, in contact with the scale, it has a lot of clearance for very heavy pants and jeans and, work pants, bags you can put it in. It's a fairly cooperative clip to use. It holds fairly securely. It's not super tight, it's not super loose. The one issue with the outside of this clip is this little thing right here. This occasionally will snag stuff, and that is in fact how I sprung it out. So I had this snag on a trash bag as I was like tying it off and moving it across my body. It snagged on the bag and like held and clipped onto it. Luckily I saw the tool and was able to recover it. And then my girlfriend actually like sat in my lap, and like her jeans like caught the clip, and that's what sprung it out. So If you work in like an enclosed space or in tight quarters, this may not be the tool for you, just because the clip is not possible to remove because you can't move the hardware, and it also springs out pretty easily because of its long shank. When you put torque on a very long piece of metal like this, it's very easy to spring out. That being said, they could not have really put it anywhere else because of this sort of waist design here, sort of like an hourglass figure on this tool overall. You don't have a spot to land the clip on the handle anywhere over here, so you kind of have to put it right there, necessitating the very long clip. So, you know, by having this design, they really limited the clip options. I think it works okay, but not great. At the end of the video, I'm going to try and bend this back to see if we can easily adjust it back to shape ourselves. It is a little bit billboarded with the big old Gerber logo, but this is nothing compared to like SOG's knives or tools. It's not like carved in there. I think it's fairly subtle for being a very large logo. Oh, and the clip gets in the way of accessing the file. We'll talk more about that later. Let's talk about the locking tools. All of the tools on this guy lock except for the pliers, obviously. It is an ambidextrous mechanism, right? So we have our little driver that's locked up. You can grab either side and pull it down, and that disengages the lock. It also keeps your fingers free of the travel path of the tool. So for things like the knife and the scissors, you are at very low risk of hurting yourself when disengaging the lock and closing it. So that's a nice feature and works honestly a lot better than the original. The original occasionally would like get jammed and it would be super hard to pull these down. This one seems to resist that for whatever reason, so they have improved the design over the original. The slip mechanism for these plier handles, like this part right here, is actually good like for creasing and folding things. This is a pretty nice tool for just like getting a good crease on something, so I thought I'd mention that because it's not a usual feature on any multi-tool, at least not one that they mention. And in terms of tool accessibility, it's not great. These are like, you can't pull these out with your nails. There's just no way. These will pull out with your nails, but I don't know if you can see this on camera. I hope you can. The nail pull is chamfered on this side. There you go. You can see the light hitting it. So it's like rounded off on one side and then just like flat on the other. And I have no idea why they did that. It doesn't seem to perform any particular function, and I would discourage Gerber from doing that again, because it seems like you're doing unnecessary machining on parts that don't require it. So if anyone knows better than me, please drop a comment. Okay, so let's finally open this guy up and talk about the pliers. The plier opening on this now is the smoothest pair of pliers that, like, smoothest multi-tool pliers that I own. That's a pretty bold statement because I own quite a few multi-tools, right? You've seen a bunch on this channel, you know that I have experience with these things. They are even smoother than my Leatherman Surge here, and I've broken this tool in for like a good 5 years. So I'm impressed with how quickly the tool broke in. However, the process of breaking it in was not exactly pleasant. As you can see here, this is where the pliers open, and clearly I have worn down that sort of speckled finish that was on there initially. It gave it quite a gritty action. I had to lubricate and work out the handles like this, and then clean it up and lubricate again and work the handles. It took probably like a good 30 minutes of concentrated working the handles, lubricating them, and cleaning them in order to get this level of finish on the plier heads. That being said, now that they're broken in, I really like them. They deploy super easily and fold away super easily, and yeah, quite nice. They are spring-loaded, you know, like a pair of pliers. I think this feature makes this a nicer tool for someone just getting into multi-tools. Again, the budget price will probably put you as a new tool user, you know, it'll incentivize you to buy it if you're new to multi-tools, and I think the spring loading action is also a good feature in that use case. If you have not gotten used to using a Leatherman style tool where you got to use fingers on either side of the handle, then this is going to help you out. Currently, these tips on these pliers are precise. I did not use them super hard, but this can actually grab hairs and pluck them out. Got to keep those eyebrows from touching each other, in my case. The tips are rather gentle, like this work right here on the needle nose portion. Really not apt to ripping stuff up. So I found these to be very useful for untying knots in strings and for grabbing fabric without worrying about shredding it up. The wire cutters. These guys look bad. I don't know if you can tell that they just kind of touch each other and do not bypass one another like a regular pair of wire cutters. So I can't say much about the soft wire end. I did use the hard wire notch down here, and it will cut coat hanger wire, although it's a rather uncomfortable experience with the handles. These little notches in here will bite into your hands when you're bearing down on it, especially the one down here that interacts with your palm, like your thumb. Yeah, I have a medium-sized hand, so your mileage may vary, but just wanted to let you know it's not the most ergonomic feeling on the handles, at least. And it did cut that hard wire and retained its functionality, so that's better than the free P4 that I got the first time. So, that was all right. Way to go, Gerber. I'm not sure if these tips right here are capable of reaming. I know that some tools you can put them in a pipe and do this and ream it out. I did not try that on this tool, although it feels like it might have just enough of an edge to kind of remove burrs on a pipe. So if anyone else has knowledge about that, please drop a comment below. All right, so let's move on to all these locking tools. I am just going to say locking tools because it's worth mentioning. All these tools lock. They have a rather secure lockup. There's a little bit of wiggle, but there's wiggle on basically every multi-tool that I own, so I'm not perturbed by it. This knife, I'm trying to remember the steel. I think it's something like a 420 HC or 8CR MOV. It's, it's all right. It's soft. It's easy to sharpen. You can see I've done some resharpening on it. Have almost worn away that factory edge. It does get rather sharp, so I don't know if it's shaving right now, but it was a couple days ago when I resharpened it. Yeah, not quite right now. You can get a shaving edge on it. It just won't hold it for very long. It is partially serrated, and these are actually some of the friendliest serrations that I've used. When push cutting something like cardboard, the whole blade tends to sail right through, so you don't get hung up on the serrations, which is interesting. I've never really had a design be that cooperative for cutting like that. So I think the combo edge here actually works. I was kind of worried about it at the outset, but yeah, I actually like this little blade on here. So way to go, Gerber. Didn't screw up the knife. All right, the scissors. These are Fiskars style scissors, and they work very well. They do have this little spring rod right here, keeps them nice and easy to use. They did round over this portion of the scissor handle so that it's nice and comfortable on your thumb to manipulate, and the tips actually slip just past each other, so you will be able to use the full cutting length of this little scissor edge. So yeah, I haven't had much issue with it. You can cut your nails with it if you like, if you're that kind of person. Let's talk about the can and bottle opener. I've got an upcoming video about can openers where I actually went and used them. This one's not great. I think it's really hurt by the fact that there's a small flathead driver tip at the end here. It doesn't exactly sink into the metal so much as abruptly punch through, which is kind of perturbing, being all the way out at the end of the shank for this tool. Your hand's rocking and rolling around, and it feels bad. Let me show you the results of the can opening. So here's the Gerber side. Kind of shredded it up, not very clean. Here's the resulting can lid, so yeah, could have done a lot better on that one. That being said, who's opening cans every day using their multi-tool? Not me, so I'll use it in a pinch. Bottle opener works just fine, flathead driver works fine, but just be warned that can opener's not fantastic. You can see these tools are loose enough to actually pull out with a nail. The other side, they will not be. Here's the medium flathead driver. Not much to say here. And a wire stripper. I do have some wire that I can strip for you. Okay, here's a little piece of coated wire that I was using for a different project. But we'll see if we can't strip this off. I'm not a professional electrician. I do not strip wire on the regular. So if my technique is bad, yeah, I'm not going to get that much better, so I apologize. Okay, it's cutting through. I can see the metal, and it pulls right off. So, yeah, that's a serviceable wire stripper. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, let's move on to the other side, and these tools are very hard to access. I'm really glad the Phillips is right here, because you're able to kind of get a nail in here or pinch either side of it and pull it out. And that is the key to accessing the other tools in here. This is a full three-dimensional like number 2 Phillips driver or crosshead driver. It's fairly robust. I haven't had any issues with it. It is well formed. Yeah, not a whole lot to say. This tool is good, although it does take up quite a bit of thickness in terms of where it is in this tool. Like, I get why Leatherman does the two-dimensional driver thing, just from looking at how chonky this cross driver is. So I'm learning more about other multi-tools. There isn't all in here. This is probably one of the least useful tools on here. I know it looks sharp, but there is absolutely no edge on this. I think you can tell by the light just like glinting off of it. Yeah, right there. You can see that. That is not an edge. It will not cut you. The tip is sharp, but because it is tapered this way. Yeah, the only sharp point on here is the tip. It's pretty thin. I wouldn't really trust it jabbing it into stuff like I would with my Leatherman Surge All. And this has no stitching capability, so yeah, this seems sort of like an afterthought kind of throwaway tool. Not very impressed with it, to be honest. And then, like I said, the clip interferes with accessing the file. You're supposed to be able to pull it from right here, which is the dumbest point to try and pull a long tool out. It should have a notch up here where it makes sense in terms of leverage. So you have to literally move these other two tools and then like pinch the top and pull it out. So yeah, Gerber, you're kind of dropping the ball on some of these designs. I hope one of you actually watches these videos, because I'm just trying to help you, okay? Alright, so this locks up. It is indeed a crosscut file. There is no single cut file on the edge that you could use as like a metal saw, which is kind of a missed opportunity. I mean, they did enough machining on here. They bothered to put a large flathead driver on here as well as a depth gauge. I don't use a depth gauge much, but if you need one, this one goes up to 4 centimeters, 1.5 inches. Not horrible. The file works okay, doesn't leave a great finish. Even on something like brass, it's not very impressive, nowhere near the Surge's diamond file. Yeah, that being said, I do like the length of this tool. I think it's better than something like, let's pull in the Gerber dime. This one, they totally screwed up the file function. Where is it on here? Trying to find it. There we go. Look how rinky-dink this little thing is. And it's interfered with by the bottle opener. So it's at least better than the dime. But yeah, that's about it. What else can I add? Oh, the lanyard hole is out of the way, which is something that I appreciate. You can see the hole right there. Pretty generously sized. You could fit paracord through there, no problem. easy to clean. You can just blow it out with hair or swab it with a Q-tip because it's so open. And yeah, that's all the tools that I have for you. Overall, I think at the price point, this tool is all right. If you like Gerber's knives and you like other things that they make, like their Fiskars scissors, and you're just like brand loyal, this is an okay entry-level multi-tool. That being said, if you're an experienced multi-tool person like myself, this is probably not worth the investment. I have a Leatherman Surge, which is like my favorite tool. Totally blows this thing out of the water. Something a little more competitive, like the Roxxon 801S, or S801S, this is the second version, has other things that people tend to like a saw. There is no saw on the Gerber Suspension NXT, which is worth mentioning. I think it's an urban style tool, so I don't think it needs a saw, but I think that's going to make a lot of people butthurt. So yeah, just wanted to put that out there. And something like the Roxxon also has like a bigger blade. We got like a corkscrew on here, and this is like a $45-50 tool. So this is fairly competitive with the Gerber Suspension NXT. So yeah, we know that Chinese manufacturing can produce better tools than what we're seeing here with Gerber. So yeah, is it worth it? I'm not going to recommend it unless it is your first multi-tool, which is what the original suspension was for me. And that being said, I like that there's a clip on this one. That makes it so much better. The plier action is super smooth, really quite satisfying. The spring-loaded mechanism makes it easy to use, even if the tools are kind of hard to get out. And not always super functional like that all. Like, really don't know what's going on there. So overall, it's okay. If you have other multi-tools you're shopping for, maybe look around. But the Gerber Suspension, it'll do if you just need something right now on a budget. Okay, and that covers it. Thank you very much for joining me. I've been Joe. You've been watching Ink&Iron. For more multi-tool videos, as well as things like fountain pens and EDC gear, stick around and subscribe, because I got more stuff coming. All right, have a good one. Bye. As good as it gets, I think.